The United States, at a glance, appears to many as an ideal nation. The strength of its dollar, unmatched military power, dominant influence in global politics and economics, and the modernity of its cities all paint a picture of exceptional progress. For many, the thought of living in a city like New York seems like the ultimate dream. But beyond the glamour of this iconic city lies another story, a shadow that stretches across its bright skyline. Beneath the bustling surface, there are those who remain hidden away, finding shelter in the darkened recesses of tunnels, sleeping on cold sidewalks, or crowding into shelters filled beyond capacity. Their lives stand as a stark contrast to the city's luxury.
These people sleeping out here tonight do not think that number is acceptable.
A powerful reflection of inequality, or perhaps a quiet tragedy masked by New York's outward success. So, what has led to such a large homeless population in this city? Let's take a closer look, exploring various corners of New York to uncover the reality behind the numbers and stories of those experiencing homelessness.
Seems to be living up to its bad reputation.
And it was on full display tonight, as Fox 5's Arthur Chian found out firsthand.
Well, this part is getting bad. You know, we all know that it's getting bad.
Homeless New Yorkers! Homeless New Yorkers! Vulnerable people! Vulnerable people! What's wrong?
New York, famously known as the Big Apple, has long been a symbol of modern civilization's achievements. It's a city that never sleeps, pulsing with energy, ambition, and a unique spirit of resilience. Towering skyscrapers, massive structures of steel and glass that pierce the sky, embody the city's drive for innovation and growth. Yet, like all progress, this ambition often comes with a hidden cost. New York is a city of two worlds that couldn't be farther apart. On one side, there's a world filled with affluence and opportunity. People stride down its streets in crisp attire, coffee in hand, radiating confidence as they pursue their careers and chase dreams. This is the New York of success and abundance, where ambition is rewarded. On the other side, however, lies a reality marked by hardship and despair. Here, we find the homeless struggling to meet their basic needs. These individuals live on the streets, often relying on discarded food to survive, seeking refuge from rain and cold, and facing a daily battle against fear and uncertainty. In recent years, homelessness in the United States, especially in New York City, has surged to levels unseen since the Great Depression of the 1930s. As of August 2024, more than 132,000 individuals are living in homeless shelters across New York City, not counting the thousands who sleep outdoors in parks, on benches, or on sidewalks. It's estimated that over 200,000 people lack permanent housing, temporarily staying with friends or family as they search for stability. Altogether, the homeless population in the Big Apple now approaches an estimated 350,000 people, a staggering figure that speaks to a deepening crisis. New York is the largest city in the United States, with a population of nearly 8 million people. For the city's homeless, life often unfolds within crowded, under-resourced shelters provided by the local government. Many shelters are packed to capacity, leaving little personal space and comfort, and tensions often run high. For some, the environment becomes too challenging, leading them to opt for life on the streets. They create makeshift homes using tents or cardboard structures, which offer little in terms of protection, especially against the harsh winter elements. During the cold months, life outside becomes an even grimmer reality. In 2024, New York's average high temperature in winter has been only 4.2 degrees Celsius, about 39 degrees Fahrenheit, with an average low around minus 2.3 degrees Celsius, 28 degrees Fahrenheit. On the most frigid days, temperatures can plummet below -20 degrees Celsius, -4 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chills dropping even further, creating dangerous conditions for those who lack shelter. When temperatures are expected to dip below freezing, the city enforces what's known as a Code Blue.
New Yorkers to help those without homes find shelter.
During these freezing spells, shelters temporarily open their doors to all individuals, regardless of their situation, and outreach workers actively search the streets to encourage the homeless to come inside. However, the city's response to homelessness has drawn mixed reactions in recent years. New York City Hall has enacted controversial policies aimed at cleaning up public spaces by removing tents from sidewalks and clearing individuals from subway stations and train cars that operate around the clock. Yet, despite these efforts, a significant number of people on New York streets avoid public shelters altogether. Even for those who are willing to enter the shelter system, navigating it is far from straightforward. With a record influx of immigrants arriving in New York daily, the city's shelter system is pushed to its limits. Since 2022, over 160,000 immigrants have come to New York, with around 70,000 of them still relying on public shelters. For those without a spot in these crowded shelters, they face the cold nights on the streets of Manhattan with nowhere else to turn. While the growing number of immigrants has put additional pressure on the shelter system, the core issue driving the rise in homelessness is a severe shortage of affordable housing. According to federal data, the average monthly take-home salary in New York is about $3,100. Meanwhile, the average monthly rent for a standard apartment hovers around $3,047, nearly the same as the average salary, leaving little room for other living expenses. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition's annual report, titled Out of Reach, provides a deeper look into this economic imbalance. The report highlights that to afford a modest two-bedroom apartment in New York without spending more than 30% of their income on housing, a person would need to earn at least $30.21 per hour. This rate is double the current minimum wage of $15 per hour, underscoring the unbridgeable gap between wages and housing costs. Income inequality is not a standalone issue, it's also deeply intertwined with the effects of gentrification. Gentrification, the transformation of neighborhoods when higher-income residents move into previously marginalized areas, has reshaped parts of New York. This process typically brings higher housing costs, large-scale renovations, rising property values, and, often, the displacement of longtime residents. For many, these changes have forced them out of neighborhoods they've called home for generations, leading some to the streets. The structural issues driving homelessness are made worse by the reality that many on the streets struggle with chronic uncertainty and, for some, deep despair. Mental health challenges and addiction are common among the homeless population. In certain parts of New York, the media has portrayed the homeless as a kind of shadowy, disturbing presence. Some news outlets, like the New York Post, liken their presence to an invasion of zombies who fill the streets with discarded needles and, at times, engage in threatening behavior toward locals and tourists. Professor Stephen Matteau, a researcher at the National Center for Homelessness Among Veterans and a professor at the University of Delaware, explains that the United States, while incredibly wealthy, has failed to address the income disparities that feed into homelessness. Why does this problem persist? He asks. The simple answer is that although this country has a tremendous amount of wealth, that wealth is not distributed fairly. As a result, a small fraction holds a significant portion of the nation's wealth, while countless others struggle to cover basic needs like housing. Numerous studies, including research published by Harvard University, reveal the significant social toll of New York City's homelessness crisis. the high prevalence of homelessness has contributed to a rise in mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and even schizophrenia, which are often triggered by the constant stress and instability of life without a home. These conditions make it challenging for individuals to access necessary health care. Compounding this, as we touched on earlier, homelessness correlates with increased substance abuse, including alcohol and drug addiction. These issues are unfortunately widespread within the homeless population, creating a cycle that worsens both social and health challenges over time. Lacking a stable place to live often leads to social isolation, which damages support networks and further distances people from meaningful social connections. From an economic perspective, the impact of homelessness is also stark. New York City faces considerable expenses due to this crisis, including the high costs of emergency housing, healthcare services, and lost productivity. When such a large portion of the population is unable to fully participate in the workforce, it weighs down the city's overall economic potential. Ultimately, homelessness in New York is not just a social challenge, but a humanitarian one. Those experiencing it are trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty, mental health struggles, and addiction. They need help, not judgment. This begs the question: what are the most effective solutions to address the rising numbers of homeless people in this vast metropolis? While we may not be experts, if we could imagine a pathway forward, we might start by acknowledging that this deeply rooted issue likely demands a multifaceted approach. First, increasing access to affordable housing is essential. New York City must invest in building more secure, quality shelters and developing robust housing assistance programs that can help homeless individuals move into permanent residences. Ensuring stable, affordable housing would be a critical first step in breaking the cycle of homelessness. Next, expanding access to mental health and addiction services is crucial. Rehabilitation and counseling programs must be readily available to address the complex health issues many homeless people face. These services would provide crucial support, helping individuals manage mental health challenges and overcome addiction. Finally, enhancing access to education and job training could be transformative. Many homeless individuals are out of work or lack the skills needed for current job markets. Education and job training programs would equip them with the abilities and confidence needed to secure employment and, over time, gain financial independence.